Well, Death's Gambit is a new Souls-like Metroidvania, a 2D side-scroller with plenty of style and horror weaved throughout the story. And on paper, this sounds like the perfect combination, but the game feels like it's missing something, plus it's definitely hampered by performance issues on Nintendo Switch in an otherwise enjoyable game. Well, Death's Gambit has an intriguing gothic story that tells the tale of Soren, a knight who was unfortunately killed on a mission to Cyrodiil, and Soren has been taken away by the Grim Reaper. So Death then brings Soren back to life to bring a balance of life and death to the world by destroying the source of the immortal being's power. So the story, it starts off strong, but it never really gets going in the way that you'd want it to. This essentially is made up of two types of games, Souls and Metroidvania. So the former has a rich history of environmental storytelling with artifacts you can find around the place, which manages to fill in the gaps of the story. So Death's Gambit does a good job with the storytelling, thanks to its flashbacks and dreams, and although the storytelling is welcome, sometimes the context could be misplaced, and I wasn't always 100% sure of what was going on. It may have been a matter of getting used to the characters and the narrative, but sometimes I just felt I lost my place in the story. Well, the visual style of Death's Gambit is one of the strongest points of the game, so I am a sucker for the pixel art 16-bit style, but the sheer amount of detail here is really impressive. So this is a great looking game and reminded me of another great pixel art hack and slash adventure from earlier in 2021 called Narita Boy. So Death's Gambit is 16-bit in style, but there's a depth and quality to the pixel art rarely found, and this is perfect for this type of game. Well, the environments, much like the storytelling, they're gothic and they're bleak, but they're also not a major strong point of the game. So whereas a game like Metroid Dread would direct you through the landscape nice and easy, here in Death's Gambit, the levels feel fairly linear, with optional side paths with enemies to find and kill. So you can quite easily miss hidden paths that will lead you to an item or an upgrade, and if you do miss out on something, then progressing in the game is going to be much slower and harder on top of an already tough game. So it's probably not fair to compare this to something like Metroid Dread, which is the master of the genre, and also one half of the name Metroidvania. However, this is an example in the genre where sometimes you hit a brick wall and you don't really know what to do. So Death's Gambit is a beautiful looking game with good combat and interesting story. However, sometimes it can feel lacking in terms of where to go and what to do. So ideally, the game should nudge you in the right direction, but sometimes in Death's Gambit, you'll come across a massive increase in difficulty, which feels a little bit out of place. So Death's Gambit does direct you, but often you're directed into the path of really higher difficulty rather than slowly ramping it up, allowing the player to hone their craft before hitting the big difficulty spike. Although the game looks like a Metroidvania, it probably shares more DNA with a Souls game. So the platforming, the 2D visuals, remind me of the best of Castlevania. However, the combat and the undirected nature of the game definitely feels more Souls-like. For example, Soren's attacking and blocking are limited by an endurance meter, which means you can't necessarily rush into battle, otherwise you're going to get creamed nice and quickly. Well, combat in Death's Gambit feels really satisfying, with different weapons mixing up the combat style, so fighting in the game does require some precision, and some of the weapons are better than others for this, but there are a decent array of weapons, and if you don't like one in particular, then switch things up and see how you get on with something else. As you progress through the game, you're going to level up Soren and his abilities, mainly adding new strength capabilities, allowing you to be more effective in combat. Well, one thing that felt a little bit lacking was the ability to bolster your defences. So on one hand, this teaches you to be cautious in battle, although as you progress up through the levels, it can feel like your power is being a little bit hampered. So yes, you can strike harder, but you still feel like you're using a paper shield when enemies attack you. So after defeating an enemy, you're going to earn shards, and these in turn are used to level up Soren, or they're used with various shopkeepers, which did remind me a little bit of Hollow Knight. Well, Soren carries around Phoenix plumes, and they are used to heal yourself. So Soren can only use this ability a couple of times, and then the meter can be refilled when you find a statue of death. So as well as healing, Phoenix plumes serve as a method for getting stronger too. For example, if you reach a statue of death and you haven't used your Phoenix plumes, then these can be traded to make yourself stronger, which is a nice twist on the regular formula. So this is one of the times where Death's Gambit does an excellent job on a tried and tested gameplay mechanic. In summary, Death's Gambit is an interesting Souls-like Metroidvania with plenty of ambition, but unfortunately it lacks a little bit in the execution. The visuals are stunning and the gameplay is fun and engaging for the opening hours. Unfortunately, this fades away as you get deeper into the game, and I can really see what the developers were trying to do here, but unfortunately it's not quite pulled off, and the game is let down a little bit with unsatisfactory performance on Nintendo Switch. So I recommend if you're going to play this, I would play it either on the PS4 or on the PC. The Metroidvania genre is filled with absolute gems, so the competition is strong, and unfortunately Death's Gambit doesn't quite measure up to its competitors. Well, the game was developed by White Rabbit, it was published by Serenity Forge, it was released on PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch and PC, and I reviewed it on Nintendo Switch. It was originally released on the 14th of August 2018. But as I mentioned before, it recently came out on the Nintendo Switch. Well, that is it for my review of Death's Gambit Afterlife. It's a little bit of a shame about that one, but if you like Souls-like Metroidvanias, I reckon it's worth giving it a shot and seeing what you think. Well, that is it for my review of Death's Gambit, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVGpodcast. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.